Welcome back, everybody. My name is Nick Fire.
And I'm Mark the Truth.
And this is the FireTruth Nerdcast. Now, as if you listen to our Star Wars The Acolyte episode 6 through 8 episode, you know that we're recording this literally right after. So we don't really need to talk about our personal lives because nothing has really happened in the last 10 minutes besides our audio files uploading. So
yeah,
other than that, we don't really have much to talk about. So this is our Deadpool 1 and 2 podcast. We're obviously doing this to tie into Deadpool Wolverine, which is coming out on Friday. So I'm looking to get this podcast out before then, so all of you can enjoy it and enjoy our thoughts on Deadpool 1 and 2. So here's what we're going to do. I'm not exactly sure which one is going to be uploaded first. I'm just going to say that here. I probably will edit the Deadpool one first just because, it's the most relevant one right now.
Yeah,
so
it comes out in 2 days.
If this is up before the Acolyte podcast, just know that if you want to hear about our day, if you care about us that much, which I'm sure you don't, just go listen to the beginning of the Acolyte podcast and then come back here. Anyways, Deadpool 1 and 2, Mark. You're the one that kind of got me into Deadpool, if you remember. Because I knew the character. I knew of the character. But you were the one who showed me the movie the first time. I probably wouldn't have watched it otherwise. Maybe later. But you were the one that I think you brought the DVD over to my house when it came out. And we watched it in my room. Do you remember any of that?
So you hadn't even seen it?
No.
Yeah, because you hadn't even seen it in theaters.
Yeah, I didn't go to the theater to see it. I didn't really know much about Deadpool. And I just wanted to ask, what's your experience with Deadpool? How did you know of the character beforehand, before you went and saw the film? Did you know him as a kid? What are your thoughts on it?
So before the movie came out, I knew of him. I didn't know a whole lot about him. Really, the only experience I had with him was that my stepbrother hates Marvel, and Deadpool is one of the people or characters that he hates the most because it's a ripoff of Deathstroke, according to him. So that was really the only major backstory I had on it. And then from there, I was like, okay, well, I don't know. He's completely different. He breaks the fourth wall. He's completely gruesome. He doesn't really follow the same traits as other Marvel characters. And he's Wolverine on steroids as far as regenerative ability. And he has no regard for it either.
This is true.
He'll break his arm just to prove a point. So then once the movie came out and I saw it, because the movie had been teased for a long time. Finally we got a trailer, and then it was still unsure of when it was going to come out, and finally it did. I'm not going to say I went back and read all of his comic books to learn about him. I used a quick Wikipedia to find out things I didn't know. But then from there, you can call it what you want, but from there slowly he became one of my favorite Marvel characters, simply because he breaks the fourth wall. It's funny. It's a different take on a character. It's not the same cookie cutter programming we get with superheroes. Kind of beats to his own drum. And I have a lot of ideas of things that, I don't know that they would do it in a movie, but bring some of his stories to a cartoon or something live action-esque, whether it's a cartoon or a live action movie.
Practicality wise, he's a character that really shouldn't even be popular. He was kind of just, like you said, he was kind of just like a spin-off or a shot at Deathstroke when he was created. And
yeah,
he ended up just taking off and becoming way more popular than Deathstroke ever was. The only reason people even know Deathstroke is Slade, and they don't even know him by Deathstroke. They know him by Slade from Teen Titans.
Right.
But yeah, my experience with Deadpool is very minimal. Like I said, I really didn't know much about him. My first time I was introduced to him was in Marvel Ultimate Alliance when I played that as a kid. And I just remember seeing this dude, and he was fun to play as because he used guns. But they didn't really have much of the personality of him in that game. So at the time, as a kid, I just thought he was another superhero that used guns. I didn't think he was this merc with a mouth, fourth wall breaking, raunchy style character. And I didn't really learn that until the Xbox 360 PS3 game came out. And I
forgot about that.
Watching videos of it as a kid and just seeing the craziness in this game and how, like, oh my God, there's like naked women everywhere. He's saying all this crazy stuff. I didn't know that about him at all.
Yeah.
So that was, he was more of like a taboo character for me, if anything, as a kid, because I didn't know if I was really supposed to like him or not.
Right. I forgot about that game. It's another game that you can add to the list of games that I never finished.
Right. I remember, if you remember, it was when we were living together. I started it, but I never finished it.
Yeah.
Though I will say, with the popularity of Deadpool right now and me being interested in the character, I actually might go play the game for our gaming channel and do a review of it in 2024. So yeah, that's pretty much was my experience with Deadpool, was that game. And that was all I knew about him pretty much until you brought the DVD over of the movie and we watched it, or I watched it for the first time. Now, to give a little background on both of these movies, there's a couple things I wanted to note. Like you said, they had been wanting to do this movie for a long time. I didn't know how long. I didn't realize that Ryan Reynolds has been trying to write and star in this movie since 2004.
Yep.
That's insane. And it didn't come out till 2016, I believe. That is crazy. Yeah. That is like 12 years of freaking dedication. But as you know, as we all know, any Deadpool fan knows, there was a strange Ryan Reynolds version that appeared in 2009's X-Men Origins Wolverine.
Yeah, that doesn't exist. I don't count that version.
Deadpool with no mouth, which makes absolutely no sense. Fox was banking on these X-Men Origins movies being like a massive franchise, and apparently they wanted to do a spin-off movie of Deadpool after that, but people just shit all over it, and that movie, it made its money back, but it didn't make as much money as they wanted it to. Like, it wasn't as successful, so they pretty much just scrapped all the X-Men Origins ideas and scrapped Deadpool again for another however many years, like 5 or 6 years. But it's just funny because at that time Fox was really in a predicament with the X-Men films, and they just weren't getting anything right at that like early 2010s-ish period. But Deadpool 2016, I remember when that movie came out, it was pretty much make or break for Fox. Like they made that movie out of desperation, really. Because they didn't have any ideas. They didn't have any good direction for X-Men or any of the superheroes they owned. They had that shitty Fantastic Four reboot movie that was awful.
Which they've all been shitty.
Yeah, they really had no clue what to do. So Deadpool, they just took a chance. And they also took a chance because Deadpool was the first R-rated, like, big superhero movie. Like, I know we had The Watchmen. I know we had Kick-Ass. There were V for Vendetta, things like that. But those weren't big, like, Marvel characters or DC characters. Those were just kind of little... Some of them were DC characters, but they're not, like, up to par with Spider-Man and things like that.
Right.
Deadpool, even though he wasn't on that level, I would say he was maybe still, like, a B or C list character. And it was a big production film at the time. So this movie obviously made him an A-lister. And because it was like a massive success, all of the corporate guys were worried at Fox that, hey, I don't know if R-rated is going to work for a superhero film. And then it ended up being the highest grossing R-rated film of all time. Turning $58 million into $782 million. And that,
thus meaning we should get Deadpool for a long time.
Yeah. And that spawned, I don't know if you remember this, but I do. That, I remember after the R rating worked, everybody wanted to do an R-rated superhero movie. That's how we got Logan. because if Deadpool would have flopped, they would have made Logan PG-13. So
yeah.
I remember Logan was banking on Deadpool being successful. Then Batman versus Superman came out with an R-rated extended cut a few months after this. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
The Snyder cut was R-rated. Justice League. Then we got movies like Joker, The Suicide Squad. Basically, we have Deadpool to thank for R-rated superhero stuff.
Yeah, it gave a whole new avenue for movies.
Now, coming into Deadpool 2, I didn't know this, but production-wise, I guess the director of Deadpool 1, Tim Miller, and Ryan Reynolds actually had creative issues going into Deadpool 2. They both had like a different vision for where the story should go. I guess Miller wanted to bring the Thing into the movie and do these other things that Ryan Reynolds wasn't. He didn't want. He wanted. Ryan Reynolds wanted it to stick to kind of what the first one was, with the raunchy humor and all that. And Tim Miller, I guess, wanted to maybe do something else with it. So they ended up getting rid of Miller. Fox listened to Reynolds, and they brought in a new director. I don't know how to say his name. David Leitch, I think. And he's the one who made Deadpool 2 with Ryan Reynolds and kind of kept the vision cohesive with the first film.
Yeah, and I think that's where we get Deadpool 3, keeping that vision, but also going with Marvel's new vision.
Just implementing it into the MCU, which is going to be a lot of fun to see. The final thing background-wise I want to talk about is, I don't know if you remember this, but Christmas 2018, Deadpool 2 came out with a PG-13 bedtime story retelling. Yeah. Did you ever watch that?
I think I tried to, and I was like, no, it's just not for me.
There was a couple scenes, though, I was looking up on YouTube earlier because I never watched it. And there was some funny stuff that they added to like replace some of the dirtier scenes. It was actually kind of funny. Like, it was clever. I mean, obviously, I'd rather watch the R-rated one, but for the kids, they made an up joke.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much all the background on Deadpool. Let's get right into Deadpool 1. So this time, knowing Deadpool, the kind of films that they are, there is a deep story to it, but it's not like something like Star Wars where there's all this mystery and things to break down and canon, what's not canon. There's not really much to analyze in these films. So instead of going through the story, we're going to go through the story, but we're kind of just going to talk about key points of the story instead of going through the whole film. That's kind of the way that I want to do it. So I told Mark to write down a couple things he wanted to talk about. I wrote down a couple things I wanted to talk about. We'll dive into those things, and that'll really be how this goes. So
yeah,
the first thing I want to just say, though, is I want to kind of give just a very, very brief synopsis of what Deadpool 1 is about. Basically, the film is about Wade Wilson, a former special forces operative turned mercenary who's experimented on and awakens his mutant genes to become the anti-hero Deadpool, who's looking for Francis, aka Ajax, the man who turned him into the freak he is today. That's basically the plot of the first movie. So, Mark, could you go ahead and explain Deadpool's powers? Like, what exactly are they? What is his mutant gene do?
So essentially his mutant gene is Wolverine's regenerative ability. So he's basically invincible. Anything you're going to throw at him, he's going to come back. And you see that in the movie where, he basically loses his legs and he starts over as, baby legs. And they grow back.
And his hand too.
Yeah. But basically he's just a unstoppable version of Wolverine without the claws and the antimantium. And I can't say that right.
Adamantium?
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, he's basically just Wolverine on steroids. So let's go into the first topic I wanted to talk about, which is Wade Wilson and Vanessa's relationship. For a superhero film, they had a pretty solid relationship. Like usually the superhero films it's kind of like a background thing, you know?
Yeah, like they wanted to stay together from the get-go, you know, when he got diagnosed, and obviously pretty much they did.
And I mean, even like just the beginning of them meeting, like at the bar, and like, you know, Wade, she's basically a prostitute, and Wade pays to spend 40 minutes with her, but instead of taking her, you know, to go do some nasty stuff, he takes her to play skee ball at an arcade.
Yeah. And he still had his motive of, I'm taking you to do this, but I still want my ring.
Because he wanted to get to know her. So it was like, it was pretty cool. Like I thought they had a pretty organic relationship, and Ryan Reynolds, and I actually don't know the actress for Vanessa's name, surprisingly, but they had good chemistry, and I liked how it kind of explains how they got the special token that will tie into Deadpool 2 later.
Yeah.
Pretty important. But basically they spend a year together, and Wade proposes to her with a ring pop that was also around his ass. Penis. But
was it around his penis or was it in his ass?
Oh no, I think it was around his penis.
Okay.
So that was interesting, but like you brought up, Wade is diagnosed with cancer, and that's basically what leads to him leaving Vanessa because he doesn't want her to suffer with him. And this guy, Agent Smith, who Wade refers to him as, if anybody knows that reference, it's from The Matrix. This guy comes up to him and basically says, hey, I can experiment on you, so we can turn you into a hero. And if you come with us, we can cure your cancer too. And that leads us to a very, very dark place, Mark, which is basically the next thing I want to get into is Deadpool's origins. So what did you think of like Deadpool's origins and like the experimentation?
I thought it was an interesting take on it. And with it being his origins, like his whole vendetta is that they made him look the way he did. They made him look like a ball sack, basically. But after like seeing the movie multiple times, like, yeah, they were pushing him to his limits to try to get his abilities to come out, basically. But he is kind of the reason why the place blew up and he got burned.
But the scarring though from Ajax putting him in the deoxygen chamber.
Yeah. Right.
So he was already scarred previously to that. Because basically when he goes there, you know, this is the X-Men universe still. So humans and most people hate mutants. And he basically finds out that he's not there to become a superhero and cure his cancer. He's been led into a torture chamber to basically breed mutants by, like you said, extreme conditions of torture, bringing the mutant gene that lies dormant in them out, and then they want to sell them as mutant slaves in auctions. So that's great.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, X-Men universe, for always being so lovely. So that kind of leads to Wade being like a smart ass, and he never loses that smart ass sense of humor. And
no, throughout the whole entire torture.
What really gets him in trouble, though, because he starts mocking Ajax by calling him his real name Francis, which, of course, not to make fun of anybody named Francis, but that's.
But if your name was Francis and you changed your name, and that would get to you if someone kept saying it.
I wouldn't like my name is Francis, is what I'm saying.
No.
If you like it, you know, more power to you. But I wouldn't like that name. So that pisses Ajax off. He throws him in the deoxygen chamber for days, which basically just it has no oxygen in it, but it's like just enough to keep you alive. So you're just suffocating for like a weekend, which sounds horrifying. But then that's, like you said, there was a fire because Wade, after his skin gets distorted and scarred, it awakens his mutant gene where he can recover. And then he steals, I believe her name was Angel. It was Gina Carano, which I couldn't tell that was her when I was watching the movie. I wasn't sure. But he steals like the match, and oxygen fire equals explosions. And that's what kind of leads to the destruction of this lab. Deadpool fights Ajax, but loses because he doesn't really know how to use his powers yet anyway.
Yeah, he doesn't know.
And he doesn't want to kill Ajax because he tells Wade that he's the only one that could, quote unquote, cure his scarring. Obviously, we find out that's a lie later in the film. But yeah, the thing I liked about this film particularly, because I remember my reservations with it. We talked about this in the DC podcast, is that I am not really a raunchy humor kind of person. It's not necessarily the humor that I enjoy. I don't enjoy things just being wild for the sake of being wild. However, I like Deadpool because there is a deep, tragic, and dark story behind the character of why he's the way he is. And all this raunchy, crazy humor is around a deep story.
Yeah, he's not just a dick to be a dick.
Yeah. And it's just like you get the funny moments with the serious moments. It's not like the Suicide Squad where like the whole thing is just dumb humor, you know? So that's what I really appreciate about Deadpool, is they're really good stories. Is there anything that you wanted to talk about with the film, Mark? I say we'll leave the ending part for the end of like the ending discussion for the end of like when we're talking about a film. So just anything, if you want to talk about any characters or anything like that.
Well, you know, after that scene, it slowly builds up, and then we get to see what version of the X-Men he gets, which is Colossus and Megasonic Teenage Warhead.
Which is a phenomenal name, by the way.
Yes. But they capture him after he tries to kill Francis or Ajax and try to convince him to be an X-Men and be like, Wade, you can do good. He's like, nah, I don't want that. Like, you know, and then he makes a joke that this is really all Fox could give us was Colossus and you.
Which probably was true.
Yeah, at the time, yeah.
But I liked Colossus. I thought he added a lot of like levity to the movie. To like something that's dumb humor, he added like a heart to it.
Yeah. You know, in that first scene, like you see that now he knows he has a regenerative ability and he shows no regard for it. Like he basically broke his arm to flick him off after they captured him.
Yeah, he cut the whole thing off.
Yeah. Talked about his origin basically. But we get to see, which I think it was mentioned in Deadpool 2. But I think it needs to be mentioned more by him. His maximum effort phrase before he goes and does something.
That's true.
Yeah, then it kind of just becomes the underlying story that he's working with them to get Vanessa back once he loses Ajax.
And kind of like he won't just go to Vanessa because he's afraid. He's self-conscious now of what he looks like. Yeah,
he's self-conscious because of the way he looks.
He thinks that she's not going to love him, so he hides his face and hides from her. So I just want to, before we get to the ending, I just want to talk about some of the other characters in the movie. And also I wanted to talking about Deadpool's origins. One of the characters we see is, I think his name's Weiss or Wes. I'm not sure how they say his name. The dude who runs the bar. Sister Margaret's, I think
Weasel.
it is.
I think his name's Weasel.
He's kind of just like the blunt reality guy. Like he kind of just tells it how it is. I like his character in this movie a lot, and I thought it was really clever how they tied the Deadpool board into the Deadpool name.
Yeah, because in that bar is just a bunch of mercenaries, and they all bet on who they think is going to be the next to die in the Deadpool.
But we know that Wade can never lose that game now.
Not anymore. I would like to point out, unfortunately, the character of Weasel I can't remember the actor's name, but him and Ryan Reynolds had a falling out during 2.
Oh no, I didn't even know that.
So he's completely gone. Like he completely blatantly will talk about how he hates Ryan Reynolds now.
Wow. Do you know what happened?
I think same thing with the director. Like they didn't see eye to eye on things. From what I understand, Weasel, I think, wanted to have a bigger role, but like you're just the barkeep and a friend of him. So like you're going to get lost in the shuffle eventually. And I don't think he liked that. So I think that was part of it. He wanted a bigger role in the movies.
I suppose I was actually going to talk about that in Deadpool 2, how he really didn't have much of a role. He was kind of just in a couple scenes and that was it.
That was why.
But like you said, I mean, especially with Deadpool heading into the MCU, some of these side characters are going to get lost, you know?
Yeah.
Like a guy who runs a bar isn't really going to be necessary when we're fighting aliens from multiverses.
Right.
So I kind of get that, but I can also understand his perspective of like, I basically helped you make this
first movie off the ground. Yeah.
And now I'm kind of just being like a side character.
Yeah.
But that sucks to hear. I was hoping that we would see all the characters return in Deadpool Wolverine, but
well, we'll still get Dopinder.
And that's the next person I want to talk about. Dopinder. How do you like him?
Well, I think he's great. I think he adds to the like comedic aspect of it because he's not a raunchy comedy part. He's not like a raunchy part to the comedic aspect of it. Like he's an innocent comedic aspect to it. You know, he gets in the cab and he's like, you're going to give guns, you have swords, like what the fuck? Then he slowly, you know, does turn into a malicious type character. But he's more so just that wholehearted, like innocent character. But for some reason, Deadpool loves him, and that's his taxi driver.
Well, it's because Dopinder kind of has a little darkness in him. Like, we see in the movie, he kidnaps that Bondu guy.
Yeah.
And puts him in the trunk of the taxi.
And then he gets in an accident, so it's like, all right.
That part is hilarious. I love Dopinder. He adds a really like funny comedic charm to the movie. And then another character I really liked was Al, the blind woman that he lives with.
Yes.
And I love the significance of her because he lives with her because she's blind. Like she can't see his face, so it helps.
He can't see what he looks like. Even though, like, you know, she basically knows what he looks like because she's with him when he regrows body parts.
Yeah, right. I mean, with his little hand.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, what he said if it's gonna feel so big in this hand, that was one of the funniest parts in the movie. But yeah, I like Al. I like how anytime she hears a noise, she's just packing just weapons all over. But she never knows where to fire because she's blind.
No,
it's an awesome character. I love that character so much. It is so funny to see. The other character that we have here is obviously you talked about Colossus and his relationship with Deadpool. How he's kind of like the big brother to Deadpool in a sense. Yeah, he wants him to join the X-Men and become part of like their heroisms, but that's just not Deadpool. Deadpool isn't. He's a hero in his own way, but he's not an X-Men type hero. Like if he don't like somebody, he's gonna kill him.
Yeah.
And then Negasonic Teenage Warhead, she really didn't do a lot in the film, but I just like her character. Yeah,
it's a different way to get one of the lesser known characters from the X-Men out. So,
right. And now, like, do you have anything else you want to talk about before we get into the ending?
No, that was pretty much it for the basics of the first movie.
Yeah. So we'll get into that. Basically, the ending where Deadpool, like you were talking about earlier, teams up with Colossus and Negasonic to go after Ajax because he kidnaps Vanessa to lure Wade after him. Colossus, we get this epic fight with him and Angel, Gina Carano. And not only was it an epic fight, but the part where her titty popped out.
Mm-hmm. And Colossus just puts his hand over.
Yeah, he has his hand. He's like, "Oh, I'm sorry." Like, what a gentleman this guy is.
Mm-hmm.
He's like the least gentlemanly looking guy there, but has like the softest heart. That's
Yeah.
hilarious. And then, but yeah, they have a good fight. And while that's happening, Ajax puts Vanessa in the deoxygen chamber to scar her like Wade, but Deadpool ends up saving her like very quickly. And then Negasonic explodes, saves Colossus because Angel kind of had him in a predicament. And that makes the whole platform tip over. And they all start falling. Once they hit the ground, though, Deadpool gets on Ajax, breaks his arms, and wants him to fix his face. And then that's when we get like the big twist in the movie that Ajax lied to him. He can't.
Yeah, he's like, I can't fix you.
He can't fix him. He calls Wade an idiot. And this is where one of my favorite scenes in the first film happens, where Colossus tries telling Deadpool, like, it only takes 4 or 5 seconds to be a hero. You don't have to kill this guy. You can be like us. And then he literally just shoots him in the middle of the speech. Yep. Like, Deadpool's just like, you're going on and on, bro. Like, I'm
done.
Fuck
he
this
can't
guy.
fix me. He's done.
Yeah, he lied to me. I only kept him alive because, I want him to fix me. Now I can't. And then obviously this is when Vanessa confronts Wade, and we get like an emotional scene between them. Like, why hadn't you come and see me? He takes off his mask and has Hugh Jackman's face. I loved all the shots he was taking at Hugh. Like, he's been baiting Hugh Jackman to do this film with him for years. I love it. And then, yeah, she sees his face and she's like, well, it's not great, but maybe after a few beers, I'll sit on it.
Yeah.
Then they have their little passionate
true
kiss.
Love.
So, yeah, right. That's true love. So they have their little passionate kiss. Wham plays in the background, like was teased earlier in the film. And we get to the post-credit scene where Deadpool basically tells everybody to go home. Why are you still here? Mm-hmm. Why are you still watching this movie? Like, you're done. And that Cable will be in the next film.
Yeah.
Now, if you listen to our X-Men 97 podcast, which you should, because we get into
know who Cable is.
Deep philosophical X-Men conversations that you will not find in the Deadpool films. You get a lot of background on Cable and more of who he is. Now this leads us into Deadpool 2. Overall, how did you feel about Deadpool 1, and how did you feel going into Deadpool 2?
So Deadpool 1, like, I thought it was a great introduction to Deadpool. You got his backstory and kind of got that ability to not fall in love with his character, but like understand his character. And it was one of those things like, all right, it did well, but I didn't know if we were going to get more. Like, yeah, he hinted at another one, but it was one of those things like I didn't know if, they were going to follow through and give us another one. So I wasn't really expecting Deadpool 2.
I mean, after I heard that it was the highest grossing R-rated film of all time, I knew they were going to milk the hell out of it. But luckily they didn't milk it, because Ryan Reynolds, this is like his baby. He's not going to let him milk it. Did you see the second movie in the theater?
I want to say yes, but I don't know for sure. I can't remember.
Because this might surprise you and a lot of people, but I just watched this movie for the first time on Sunday.
What?
Yeah. I never saw it in theater, and it was just one that, like, it came out and it kind of just passed me by, and I just kept forgetting to watch it. And, like, I meant to, but I just kept forgetting. And then when Deadpool Wolverine was coming out, I was like, I have to watch this now.
Well, yeah, you missed out for so long on not seeing it, but it's fresh in your mind now.
Mm-hmm.
And then knowing what you know about where the Marvel Cinematic Universe is going. So, I mean,
yeah, it worked out. I mean, I didn't mean to miss it. I've literally owned the movie for years.
It just kind of passed you by.
I forgot, like, life happens. So many other things come out. You don't think about Deadpool 2, and it's just a movie that passed me by. But I just watched it this Sunday when I went to my dad's house, because he also hadn't seen it, so we watched it together to get ready for Deadpool Wolverine, and I really enjoyed it. It was
Yeah.
another great movie. I like the first one more because I think the first one is just a tighter, more cohesive, simple story. And I always like origin movies. But the second film was great. I mean, it was very similar to the first one in tone and everything. Ryan did a good job of protecting the vision of Deadpool.
Yeah, and I think that's going to carry over to Deadpool 3.
Definitely. So Deadpool 2, basically this film, Deadpool's pretty happy in his life. He's with Vanessa, and she wants to have a baby with him. So before they can even try, though, she's suddenly killed by these guys that Deadpool was hunting. And that leads to Wade having depression and trying to kill himself constantly, which is pretty heavy. And like I was saying earlier, that's kind of the thing I like about Deadpool is it tackles these heavy topics along with the funny stuff. So Colossus tries to bring Deadpool into the fold as an X-Men, give him a new family, give him some new hope. Wade doesn't quite fit in, of course.
No.
And he finds new purpose through protecting a mutant boy named Russell, aka Fire Fist. So first thing I really want to talk about in this film, though, is Vanessa's death. And I really liked the symbolism throughout the movie of she was in some sort of an afterlife, and every time he killed himself, he could see her and he tried to get there, but he never could.
He couldn't. Yeah.
Because he's immortal, and also he still had things to do. I kind of like that aspect. It added an emotional layer to the movie that I was not expecting at all.
No.
I didn't expect her to die, especially not in the beginning of the film.
No.
So that really had me thrown for a loop. And because I hadn't seen the second movie, but had watched the trailers for Deadpool and Wolverine, I was very confused because she was in the trailers for Deadpool Wolverine.
Right.
And I was like, oh, she died. But then I remembered, oh, this film's about time travel. So somehow she's going to be saved, which we'll talk about when we get to the end. But I also want to talk about Russell. How did you like Russell and Fire Fist in this film?
I thought it was a good character. He's basically, like we talked about in the Acolyte, he's a kid that does things out of frustration.
Well, yeah, and especially, being tortured and abused at a school is not easy, and you're a mutant, and the world hates you. So, and you're a chubby kid, so you probably get made fun of for that too.
Right.
You probably would hate the world if you were him. So I understand where his motivations and struggles were at. But Deadpool basically joins the X-Men as a trainee. I love the little penny he was wearing, penny jersey.
Mm-hmm.
And he comes across Russell and finds out that he was abused. And this was another one of my favorite scenes because it ties back. There was a lot of things in this film that tied back to the first one that I really liked. And I love that he starts giving the 4 to 5 second hero speech. And then he's like, but fuck that. That's not me. I'm killing your ass.
Yeah.
And he blows that one teacher's head off. Obviously, this pisses Colossus off, though. Because he's a hero, and this makes the X-Men
and he's
look bad.
With the X-Men, so it's that's a bad look for us.
So Colossus, who in the first film was... he saw Wade as a good person. In this film, he kind of takes a step back and says, you've gone too far. I can't help you anymore.
Yeah.
And he allows Deadpool and Russell to be collared and sent to the ice box, which is a prison for mutants. Before we get into that, did you have anything you wanted to talk about?
No, my first thing leads right into them being in jail. So
okay. So them in jail, Wade is dying from his cancer again.
Yeah, because they put a collar on him that counteracts his ability, so his regenerative abilities can't fight the cancer. So he's slowly dying of cancer.
And that was pretty sad. When I realized that was happening, I was like, wow, man, this is why I like Deadpool. It has levity to it.
Right.
It's not all just fun and games, even though it's masked by that. So he's dying of cancer. Russell is failing to become head of the prison and get prison bitches. So this then leads into Cable. If you don't know who Cable is, he's a time traveler from the future. They didn't go into this in the film, but he's the son of Cyclops and Jean Grey, or a form of Jean Grey. If you want to know more about that, go watch our X-Men 97 podcast. And Cable goes after Russell. He wants to kill the boy because in his future, Russell kills like the guy that's the head of the school. And after that, he gets a taste for killing and ends up killing Cable's family.
Yep.
So Cable's basically doing what the Avengers should have done with Thanos.
Yeah, just gone back and killed him as a kid.
So, yeah, Deadpool basically gets free from his collar. He fights Cable. They have like this big fight. Cable steals that skee ball coin that I was talking about that like symbolizes Wade and Vanessa's relationship. While they're fighting too, Deadpool kind of says, I don't give a fuck about the kid, just saying that. And Russell hears it. So that really hurts him deeply because like pretty much Deadpool is the only person that ever believed in this kid. So for him to say that, it kind of fucked with the kid more and kind of turned him more cold.
You basically just created the monster that Cable's trying to kill.
Yeah, he basically just did that. So the boy gets pissed and runs off. Deadpool and Cable like fall down the mountain that the icebox is on, and Cable basically disappears. Deadpool almost dies again, but this is where he finds out, because he keeps getting frustrated that every time he gets near death, he can't interact with Vanessa. This is where he finds out that his purpose in life before he dies and can join her is to protect this kid and save him.
Yep.
So Deadpool, basically, I want to get into next, like his relationships with the X-Force, Domino, Cable, just all his relationships in this film. He knows he can't save the kid alone because now he has Cable after him, and he has to attack a convoy that is transferring the mutants to a new prison after the icebox got messed up. While that happens, Russell, he starts making friends with... Who does he start making friends with?
Juggernaut.
Which, it was awesome to see Juggernaut in live action. I didn't know he was in this film.
No.
So I love Juggernaut. I think everybody does. And I loved how Ryan was like fangirling over Juggernaut in the film.
Yeah.
He was like, I always wanted to fight you. This is awesome. So basically, this is kind of the part I was talking about with Wes or Weasel. I could see why maybe he was frustrated, because this was really the only part he had in the film where he was just helping Deadpool assemble
pick the X-Force.
The X-Force. And we get a cool character, Domino. How did you feel about Domino in this film?
I thought it was an interesting character. I think I don't know a lot about her. I think there's more to her ability just being luck. But yeah, she's also the only character from the X-Force that sticks.
She is. I really like Domino. I thought her ability with luck, like, I didn't know anything about the character. I've just seen her in comic books and stuff before. Or like, drawings. I've never really read a book with her or anything or seen her in much. So I didn't know her ability was luck. And at first when I heard that, I was like, how cool is that? And then, yeah, that was like one of the coolest parts of the movie, because everything works out for her constantly.
Yeah, no matter what she does, it works out.
Like, no matter what she does, it works out for her, while Deadpool and the rest of the gang are having a shit show. Because,
well, I mean, the rest of them all.
Yeah, they all die. All the X-Force. And even, let's give a shout out to Peter, though.
Peter.
His abilities are type 1 and 2 diabetes. And then Deadpool Peter can't even get his name right. He keeps calling him Jerry or Greg or something. The only other thing I wanted to say about Domino is I loved her character and I love the actress that played her, but I do kind of feel like they may have dropped the ball with her costume design, because if you look at the character in a comic book or a cartoon, she looks way cooler than she did in this movie.
Really?
Yeah, like she's actually supposed to be like white, like a clown with a black eye. But in this, they kind of just gave her a white eye and called it a day. I kind of wish they would have went with like the full black and white color scheme.
Yeah, gone a little bit more in depth with it.
She kind of just was like her with a white eye. It was just like, I guess, but this doesn't really look like Domino.
Yeah.
But she was still a good character. Peter shines, obviously. I don't even know the rest of the X-Force characters.
No.
I didn't. They died fast.
Yeah, one of them was Brad Pitt. The invisible one was Brad Pitt.
The invisible one was Brad Pitt, and Terry Crews was another one.
Yeah.
But I didn't know anybody else. I just know, Deadpool parachutes, the wind is bad, but he says, screw it, we're going. Yeah. And then literally every awful thing imaginable happens. One guy goes through like a wood chopper. Mm-hmm. Another guy gets like ran over. One guy gets like disintegrated by the other one's vomit. I don't know what the hell was happening in this scene, but poor Peter, man. I wish he wouldn't have died.
Peter's alive.
Well, he is alive, but I wish he wouldn't have died then. I didn't know he was going to be alive at the end of the film. No. But I was like, oh no, not Peter. I thought his diabetes would save him.
Yeah. Yeah, his powers of what type 1 and type 2 should have saved him.
He has enough problems. So
yeah.
Deadpool and Domino are the only ones that remain, like Mark said. And they go after the convoy. Obviously, like we said, everything works out for Domino. Deadpool fights Cable in the back of a truck. This is kind of when it's revealed that Juggernaut is who Russell is with. Juggernaut takes Deadpool and rips him in half. Literally rips him in half, which is what Mark was talking about, how he had to regrow his legs. And then after that defeat, Russell gets away with Juggernaut. Deadpool goes back to Al's house. Again, another character. I like Al, but she didn't really do much in this film.
No, she wasn't really big in this movie.
Though, Dopinder was a boss in this film still.
Yes.
So at least they nailed one of the characters. If any of these characters are going to be in Deadpool 3, I want it to be Dopinder.
Oh, he will.
He needs to drive him and Wolverine somewhere in the multiverse. I need to see them get in a taxi and go through like a portal. So he also has a funny story too, because he killed that Bondu guy that was hitting on the girl he liked, and now he has a taste for blood too.
Yeah.
He wants to become a mercenary.
Which I don't know if Dopinder's got it in him to be a mercenary.
Well, we'll see, because he did take a final kill in the end here. But
yeah.
Anyways, Cable comes to Al's house, basically asks Deadpool for help killing Russell, because Cable and him kind of bond over the fact that they both blame themselves for their wife's death. And they kind of, like I said, they bond over that. But Wade is like, let me save the kid. Just give me a chance. If I can even change your future, if I can stop him from killing, maybe we can change what happens to you. And Cable isn't really confident in it, but says, okay, we'll give it a shot. I'll give you one shot. So this leads basically into the end of the film. Do you have anything you wanted to bring up before we get there?
No, I mean, we talked about his recovery as baby legs. So
yeah, the baby legs with the balls hanging out. All right, so yeah, Deadpool, he knows he needs more help though if he's gonna stop Juggernaut. He goes to the X Mansion, apologizes to Colossus, Negasonic, and Negasonic's girlfriend Yukio. who for some reason he loves.
Yeah.
And Colossus ain't coming outside. So they say, all right, we'll go after him without him. So they head there. Deadpool, Cable, Domino, they confront Russell and Juggernaut. And one of my favorite scenes happens where Deadpool gets on top of Juggernaut and starts using the Black Widow Hulk thing with the sun's getting real low.
Mm-hmm.
And then he just gets immediately thrown off and a spike through his head. This is when Colossus saves him, though. Colossus, he's a good guy. He ain't going to leave Deadpool. And
he cares too much.
Yeah, and they kind of tease like, hey, we're going to have a big epic CGI battle now.
Mm-hmm.
How did you like the battle of Colossus and Juggernaut?
I mean, I don't really know what I was expecting out of it because it's a Deadpool movie, and then he makes the reference like we're gonna have a huge, big CGI battle. I thought it was a good battle per se. I mean, because there's really not much superpowers in it. It's just two big ass motherfuckers.
Now, this was actually the scene that Tim Miller wanted the Thing in. He wanted the Thing to fight Juggernaut. I just don't feel like that fits in this.
No.
It makes more sense for Colossus.
Yeah, you'd have to introduce a whole new character for no reason.
Yeah, and it's like a character that's not even in the X-Men.
Yeah.
It's like, why would the Fantastic Four be here? Just
why would he care?
Yeah, right. Why the hell would he care? Guy must have just liked the Thing, I guess. But I like the battle.
He had a thing for the Thing.
He sure did. I liked the battle, and I liked how Colossus basically shoved an electrical wire up Juggernaut's ass to finish it. That's the great humor in these movies.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be outlandish. No. You can have subtle humors.
It was funny. It was. You can always laugh when someone loses getting something shoved up their ass. So Deadpool tries to stop Russell from killing. Tries to convince him, it's not worth it. Tries to get in his head and play to his sympathies. But Russell doesn't give a shit. He's too far gone. And he attacks Wade. So Wade puts the collar on and says, okay, next time you attack me, I'm going to die. So what are you going to do? Russell goes to attack him anyways because he's a kid who's not thinking emotionally. And Cable says, all right, fuck this. He's dead. He shoots him, but Deadpool jumps in the way of the bullet. And it leads to one of the... I don't know how you can have one of the funniest and saddest scenes in the entire film at once. But like we did, where, Deadpool sacrificing his life to save Russell is what convinces Russell not to be a killer. And you can see that through Cable's daughter's teddy bear that's burnt up on his side, turning back to normal. I really loved that scene. And then I loved how like Wade just refused to die. That was the longest death scene ever. He's just like, I can't get comfortable. I
can't get comfortable enough to die.
This isn't how I expected it. Then he's like, oh, there's the light. Oh, nope, there's not the light. That was just the helicopter or something. Obviously, Cable realizes he was wrong and Wade was right. So instead of just letting Deadpool die, he goes back in time, which I think Deadpool would have been happy dying at this point because he was
because he could have gone with Vanessa.
But of course, a superhero, even if you're a merc with a mouth, his job is never done. Vanessa tells him, no, you're not quite done yet. People still need you. We'll meet again soon. Cable goes back in time, uses the last of the juice he has in his time travel device to save Deadpool. And how he does it is using the skee ball coin. He slides it right into where Deadpool is going to get shot by him. So he doesn't die, but Russell still thinks that he,
sacrificed himself
and died for a second. So it basically, Deadpool still is able to jump in front of Russell and save him and selflessly. And that's kind of what I like about Deadpool, even though he's like raunchy and like,
He's still a good guy.
He kills. He is a really, like, at heart, he is what Colossus says. He is a good guy. And a true X-Man trainee. Because even after that, you know, you think you're getting this happy ending. We still haven't settled with the director of the school. He comes out and starts saying, you filthy mutants, you know, like, fuck you guys. I hate you. You're all going to die. Cable's actually going to kill him. And Dopinder comes in and runs him over. So Deadpool's like, no, let's not kill him. Let's not prove him right. We'll turn around. Like, this is the first time Deadpool's ever actually done anything heroic, really. Yeah. And then Dopinder comes in for the kill.
He's like, all right.
He just runs him over with the taxi. But the sad part is that Cable can't go back to see his family now.
Even though they're alive and he did what he needed to do.
Yeah. He's stuck in the present for now, which, you know, basically ties into the ending, the post-credit scenes, when this is really going to heavily tie into Deadpool Wolverine, because we see Negasonic Teenage Warhead and Yukio playing with Cable's time travel device and fixing it. Now, I don't know if they let Cable go back to the future or not. We're not really sure.
I don't know.
They didn't explain that. But Deadpool sure as hell uses it to start causing chaos across the timeline.
Yep.
And the multiverse, where he ends up saving Vanessa. So that's how Vanessa's in the next film.
In the next movie.
Saved her and made sure his cream cheese knife went through the Asian dude's head. And then we got some funny cameos of him basically going to the X-Men Origins Deadpool and killing him.
Yep.
And then telling Wolverine we'll meet again soon. And then my favorite one, though, was when he went to see Ryan Reynolds when he was accepting the Green Lantern script and blew his brains out.
Yep.
Did you catch any like cameos between the two movies that we didn't talk about that you want to?
I don't think so.
Like Easter eggs?
I mean, really the main Easter egg of that movie was him going to different timelines and fucking shit up.
And the only other thing, there was only two other things that I had was like, I liked how when Deadpool was in the X Mansion in the second film, how he's riding in Charles's wheelchair.
Well, yeah, and we see a split second of the X-Men in there. Yeah,
we saw Beast.
Yeah.
And when he's making fun of the fact that there's never any X-Men in this house.
Yeah.
And then there's a funny scene too where when he's riding in the wheelchair, he's like, whose chair is this? Because there's the two different chronologies of the X-Men. And he's like, I hope it's Patrick Stewart's. And then the other thing from Deadpool 2 specifically that was funny was like the shots they took at DC being too dark, which is my complaint about the films, the Snyderverse films. So I appreciated that. And then obviously just him calling Cable Thanos because it's the same actor.
Because it was the same actor.
Josh Brolin, which I never realized how similarly his face looks to Thanos.
Yeah. Well, and did you know that he's like 5'6" or something?
Yeah, they made fun of the fact that he was a short Cable.
Yeah.
Like Cable's supposed to be like this 7-foot dude, and in this film he's like a 5 foot like he's shorter than Deadpool.
Yeah.
That was really it. And then like kind of just the beginning of the film where Deadpool's ranting about the fact that like, fuck man, I was gonna die in this movie, but you know, Logan just had to go and get the better death than me.
Yeah.
That was funny too.
Yeah, there's lots of references to other things. But I think the most important overseeing story of it is him going through time.
Yeah, because that's what's going to tie into Deadpool Wolverine, which we have a few predictions or things that we'd like to see in the film that we want to talk about.
I just have characters I'd like to see.
Yeah, really, it's just characters or things that I like to see. But before we get into that, how did you feel about Deadpool 2?
I thought it was a good movie. I didn't fully like the randomness of Colossus. Like, it was cool. I just didn't really understand where he fit in and why he was there if there's no other X-Men really. Then,
he's mainly
him jumping,
just like the one that helps bring out Deadpool's heart.
yeah. And then, with the time aspect of Cable showing up, like, I didn't really know the significance of that until we got to where we are with Marvel. I just thought it was like, okay, well, Cable's in the video game that we had talked about earlier. I just thought it was like, okay, he's someone that he works with that travels through time. I didn't really know there was a correlation to where Marvel was going.
Well, that was the thing I wanted to talk about. Let's just get into our final thoughts and like Deadpool Wolverine, what we want to see. I kind of wanted to talk about that because this movie I'm pretty sure it was made before Disney bought Fox.
Yeah.
So they didn't do the time travel in mind for what the MCU was doing. And not only does it fit perfectly in, just so happen to, but there is one little thing that they might have to answer. And I'm curious to see if they do, because in the MCU, it's all multiverses. There's no like specific timelines. It's all just different universes. Whereas in this, when Deadpool stopped Russell from killing, it changed Cable's future.
Yeah.
So will they address that, or will they just ignore it and hope nobody caught that?
I think they'll address it somehow.
Or just make fun of it. Like Deadpool might just be like, this doesn't make any fucking sense. Time travel.
Yeah. Why'd you let me do this? Why'd you let this go into the script?
Because that's what you would call the butterfly effect, where one choice, you change one thing in the past and it changes something in the present. But the MCU doesn't do that. They are just a multiverse where you don't go to another timeline, you go to a different universe totally.
Right.
It'll be interesting to see how or if they do that. And it'll be interesting to see if Cable makes his way into Deadpool and Wolverine. Do you think he will?
Oh, definitely.
I hope so. I would like to see it. So what do you have? What are some of the characters or things that you want to see in the Deadpool Wolverine film?
I mean, I think a must is Loki and Mobius.
Oh yeah.
With the time police, basically.
The TVA. I think they already showed that they're going to be like, they arrest Deadpool, the TVA.
Yeah.
He's been fucking around with the timelines.
I think Gambit would make sense, because we're probably going to get some way, some shape or form of all the X-Men.
Especially because they wanted Channing Tatum to play Gambit for so long.
Right. Obviously, we know we have, what's her name? X-23?
Yeah, Daphne Keane, X-23. Who's having a hell of a year, by the way.
Yeah.
It's in the Acolyte and Deadpool Wolverine.
Yeah. I think we will get the Thing. I think that's pretty much confirmed. Yeah.
Now, it's going to be like the Thing from the original films, right?
I would think so.
2015 one?
No.
Okay, it better
both. Daredevil.
Ben Affleck, though, right?
Yes, Ben Affleck's Daredevil.
I think this whole film is going to be like a love letter to Fox.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a love letter to Fox, and it's going to be characters we know, but it's going to be those versions. Like, we're not going to see the version of Daredevil that we saw in Spider-Man.
No, or like the Netflix.
Yeah.
Adaptations.
I think we'll see some version of the Hulk.
I really want to see Hulk versus Wolverine.
I don't know. I think we will, but also they might save that for something else.
Maybe they'll save it for like Secret Wars.
Yeah. I think we're definitely going to see Doctor Strange.
Yeah. I mean, it would make sense because he's going to wonder what the hell is going on.
Yeah. I think we'll see more of Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, but I think we'll see all versions of Spider-Man.
Oh, really? You think so? I don't think we're going to see the Spider-Man in this.
I think we will.
I think this is going to be, I personally think this is going to be like solely, maybe a couple of Avengers, but solely like Fox characters.
Yeah. I think we'll see Spider-Man. We'll see Blade.
It'd be interesting. Yeah, we might see Blade.
Obviously, we're going to see the Deadpool family with Dogpool, Headpool,
Ladypool. They teased.
I threw Moon Knight in there. I don't think we'll see that.
Probably not, because he's a MCU character.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see if we'll see Thanos.
We'll probably see some version of him.
We'll see Deadpool just kill Thanos in like 2 seconds or something.
I think we'll see Stan Lee.
Really?
Yeah.
You think they'll AI
because they can go back
in there?
Well, they can go back in time, so they can do some kind of cutscene to a movie he was in.
Maybe like some footage they never used.
Yeah,
or something.
I think we're gonna see.
Star Wars did it with Leia, so
yeah, I think we'll see some kind of generic version of Ryan Reynolds' Green Lantern.
You think so?
Yeah.
Maybe DC will let them do it, but I don't know. If they're rebuilding, I don't know if they'll want them to make.
They'll let that, yeah. Lantern. This one is a stretch, but Lady Death, just because Vanessa's still alive, so I think that's a stretch.
Because they didn't use Lady Death with Thanos, I'm probably going to say no.
Yeah.
Unless they use Lady Death to bring Thanos back.
Yeah.
Which could be something they do.
Yeah, I could see them doing that. I can't remember the name of the character that they're saying she's going to play, but Taylor Swift is supposed to play some character that's like... No. So there's that option, and there's also the option that she's going to play some character that's like a pop star, but also a superhero. That being said,
but you can't trust the denials.
No, and that being said, with her being possibly in there, I think we're going to see Travis Kelce in the movie. Sadly,
I hope not.
I think so.
I'm tired of seeing them everywhere.
I agree, but I think that's too easy of a joke for Deadpool to make.
It is.
And then
like Deadpool likes to make like relevant jokes. So
yeah. And then lastly, we're going to see Peter.
Yeah, we have to see Peter. And part of me kind of hopes we see the more comic accurate Domino.
Maybe.
Just in a universe they end up in or something. The characters we know for sure that are going to be in the film is like Sabretooth. We saw.
Yeah.
I know TVA, so definitely. Maybe I don't know if Loki will be in it, but I know for sure Mobius will be.
Yeah.
And most of those TVA characters probably will be.
But like besides characters I want to see, like I don't really have any expectations because with the Multiverse of Madness, I had so many expectations of what we were going to see. So I'm going into this movie kind of like not unexpecting, but like kind of just like, all right, I know what characters are confirmed. I'm looking forward to seeing that, and I'm leaving it at that.
Yeah, and I don't want it to be too much either. You can also ruin the movie by throwing in too much stuff. So I hope with Ryan Reynolds being at the helm of Deadpool, he seems to have a good vision. I don't think he'll let that happen.
No.
I think we're going to I think this will be a love letter to the Fox X-Men and the Fox films. We'll probably see most of those characters return. And that'll probably be it. Something I did want to talk about really quick, though, before we wrap up is I love how they're bringing Hugh Jackman back, but they're not having him play the same Wolverine that died in Logan.
Right.
This is a different Wolverine. This is a variant of Wolverine that failed the X-Men, and he regrets that. He feels like a failure in life. So right away, like that last trailer really got me excited for the film because now I see there is another deep story here to tell. Also, shout out to Wolverine in the yellow and blue.
Yes, but we need to see him with the cowl on.
I'm sure he will. But they also might be saving the cowl for when they reboot the X-Men.
True. That might not be a bad idea.
So we'll see who ends up being in the film. I just like Kevin Feige did say something, and I did address it on X. He said that this film proves that they can bring old characters back from the dead as long as it's written well. And my final thing I just really want to say is, yes, this worked for Hugh Jackman and Wolverine because we haven't seen him in the MCU yet. And they did it correctly with a variant. However, please, for the love of all that is holy, do not bring back Iron Man.
No.
I'm 100% against that. Please.
Leave him where he is.
Like Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark had one of the greatest deaths in cinematic history.
Yes. You can have Robert Downey Jr. come back as someone else, but leave Iron Man where he is.
Yeah. You could bring him back as a joke to be something that you wouldn't expect him to be. But please leave Iron Man dead. I don't want to see a variant. I don't want to see any of that. Leave Iron Man dead because his character and his arc was so beautiful. I really don't want the MCU to ruin it for like a cameo or something.
No.
Even Secret Wars, please don't bring him back. Please. I know it's tempting. I know the movies aren't really doing well, but you're going to have Hugh Jackman. You're going to have Ryan Reynolds. You're going to have more star power coming in soon. Please don't do it. And yeah, that's really it. And really, I just wanted to say that Ryan Reynolds overall, I don't think he gets enough credit for playing Deadpool as much as good as he does and for making it come alive.
No, he is the actor for this character.
Yeah. He plays it just as good as Hugh Jackman with Wolverine or RDJ as Iron Man. Like he is Deadpool. And if he wouldn't have pushed so hard since 2004, we may not even be getting the kind of films that we are today. So I think we owe Ryan Reynolds a lot of credit.
Yeah, we wouldn't be where we are.
And that's really all I have left to say. You have anything, final thoughts, Mark?
No, just that, when we do the episode after seeing the movie, we'll correct whether or not we were right with some predictions or not.
Pretty much. And that's basically it. Our next episode next week will be on Deadpool and Wolverine. So we'll see if we got anything correct. If we were totally wrong, which we probably will be on certain things. And what secrets Marvel is keeping from us. I heard they leaked the entire film, but a fake film.
Really?
Just to throw people off track. So they're on to you guys who are leaking out there. So I'm looking forward to Deadpool Wolverine. Comes out on Friday. You'll get our podcast on it next week. This week, enjoy 2 podcasts that we did.
Yeah.
Because we just filmed Star Wars The Acolyte, episodes 6 through 8. Had a really deep conversation on that I hope you enjoy. This one, not as deep, because like I said, it's just Deadpool. But, everything that's deep is like surface level. There's nothing to really look into. But I love these films. After watching them this time, especially the first one, I like the first one more now than I did before. So I really enjoyed the films. I love 2 as well. They're definitely movies I'll watch again. And I'm looking forward to what comes next in the MCU. So you can follow us on social media at FireTruthCast. We have an X. We have an Instagram. We have a TikTok and our YouTube where you can like, comment, subscribe. Please, it would really help us get on track here. We hope you enjoyed our commentaries. You can also follow us on Spotify as well. That will really help too. And we will be back next week with Deadpool and Wolverine. So I hope you guys
we have to avoid spoilers.
Nah.
Okay.
Nah, fuck that. Don't listen to this shit if you haven't watched it yet. That's what I have to say. So we're going to get into it. We're going to deep dive on those films, or on that film specifically. So be prepared. We're going to get really in there. That was kind of... that's kind of a perfect way to end a Deadpool.
Yeah, we'll just end it right there.
So see you guys later. We'll see you next week. Goodbye, everybody.